What's up, Viking fans? Welcome to the Purple People podcast. My name is Kyle Smith, and tonight I'm joined by Adam Carlson. How are you, sir?
Not too bad. Dealing with a little bit of tooth pain, but not so bad.
Oh, that's the worst. Never gets talked about how painful anything in your teeth or your mouth can actually be. I hope that heals up quick for you, man.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we are
Happy
here.
Mother's Day to all the moms out there listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy Mother's Day to the ones here, to the ones not, and give a special shout out to my son's mother. You're a great mother to my son, and I appreciate you, and he appreciates you too. But he may watch this, he may never. We'll see. But I won't be out in the universe. Thank you for reminding me of that, Adam. It's the end of the day, and I'm getting sleepy. But you know what?
No.
This will wake me up. It's the Vikings schedule release. We're going to talk about the newly released schedule for the Vikings, highlight some of the games, and maybe even throw out a prediction there just on a whim. I have some highlighted. I'm definitely going to one or two of them. But before we get into that, let's talk about some news. So if you head on over to the vikingage.com, you can see an article written by our own Adam Carlson yesterday. It's published yesterday, and we have a trade. I'm sure we're a couple of days past, but if you're living under a rock, we want to break the news to you. Zadarius Smith, outside linebacker for Minnesota Vikings, has been traded to the Cleveland Browns. Vikings received 2 fifth-round picks for him, I believe one in 24 and one in 25. The Vikings sent off some picks as well, a 6th and a 7th, I believe. I'm trying to think of this off the top of my head, but the Vikings get some picks back. Ultimately, and this is my opinion, obviously I think Adam agrees with me, but I want to hear his thoughts too. We needed to sign our draft picks, and we had all but Jordan Addison, first-round pick, and third-round pick corner. What was it, Mekhi Beckman? Did I say that right?
I don't know.
We have those two guys left, and the Vikings are very strapped as far as the financial situation. We've talked about it on this show. Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell have barely been here a year. They have quite a mess to clean up contractually with a lot of the players. That's why Eric Kendricks, Adam Thielen was released. And we kind of figured we had named 3 players that we had thought may be on the chopping block. Number 1 being Dalvin Cook, number 2 being Zadarius Smith. And he ends up getting traded to the Browns, and the Vikings get a little bit of compensation back. So I'm not too upset with the trade. I kind of figured with his weird cryptic social media post, even though he was
I was very disappointed that Zadarius Smith went public again with his disappointment. We saw this in Green Bay even before he came to Minnesota, and I was hoping that his time in Minnesota would make him a little bit more appreciative of having a place to play that wanted to pay him and where he could be productive along with other teammates. It seemed happy when he signed there. There were a lot of posts of him hanging out with the teammates and everything, but something must have went wrong along the way.
Yeah, and no, I'm not going to point the finger of blame because the more that we do this, Adam, the more I really do try to, even though I'm not a professional, I don't have a degree, and I don't have any publication, I really do try to look at this the way we do this semi-professionally, or at least build it that way. Think about it from a reporter or someone who asks questions, because in order to receive information and make content like this, you have to take in knowledge. And I'd love to ask him why it went sour. I would ask him, do you think that there may be a trend because this did happen here? You were also drafted in Baltimore, I believe, so you made your way around the league now. I just really want to know because they had a new coaching staff, and, this is me picking on someone who can't really defend themselves now, but I could see maybe coming in at the end of the December era when everything was sour in the locker room and wanting to leave and the team not winning. But you came in with a new coach, player family. They win 13 games. They beat Green Bay. They win the division. I mean, something is there, but we may never find it out. But I would love to know.
And he came in and was super productive. He was among the league leaders in sacks for the first half of the season.
Right. We know about the injury, which kind of derailed his production the second half of the season. But make no mistake, like you said, he was a contributor on this team, and we enjoyed watching him as fans. I love the team of him, Neil Hunter.
I don't know a lot of people who find their happiness in Cleveland.
That's so well said. Yeah. And the first thing I think of, like, this is just how my brain is wired now that I'm a fan of the NFL for so long. And yes, of course, my love is for the Vikings, but I like all of the NFL news. when I first look at the team when someone goes, and immediately I think, what division are you in? If you're in the AFC West and you get traded, if it's not to a city called Kansas City, I feel bad for you. If you go somewhere in the AFC South, I think you have a punter's chance of winning that division. The Jags are pretty good now, which is weird to say, but we're on the best of the best, the worst, whatever. When I see that Zadarius Smith goes to Cleveland, I immediately think, oh, no, you're not going back to the playoffs. There's not Deshaun Watson looked terrible last year. Baltimore with Lamar Jackson coming back and some new weapons sounds pretty scary because a lot of people forget about the little games that we don't really care about but could have made a difference. They were like a quarter away from beating the Bengals and getting to the playoffs, which is really weird with a backup quarterback. The Steelers, I don't know how I feel about them.
They have a lot of talent, but they got to realize a lot of that too.
Right. I trust Tomlin, and he never does have a losing record, but it's tough to win in that division because you have Joe Burrow and the Bengals, and they in a Super Bowl a year removed from this one, and they're very good. So I feel bad for Zadarius, but he does get to play alongside a great playmaker in Myles Garrett, so that may help him. That is kind of a scary tandem if he stays healthy. So Cleveland, you got a great pass record. For me, and Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't see how you would be excited for him to pass a year. I don't know why he would want to stay there, and he has a track record of not staying somewhere very long before it sours. So
you got to assume Cleveland tried to look at their pass rush situation where they were terrible last year, outside of Miles,
right,
and wanted to improve, but they didn't want to give up a lot, so they probably lowballed Minnesota with what they thought was an offer Minnesota was going to laugh at, and the Vikings, desperate to unload some of that salary cap, said, okay, let's do it. Because they knew Zadarius just was very vocal about not wanting to play in Minnesota.
Well, I won't give away too much of your article here. So you guys go check it out on the Viking Age. Check out Adam's work, because I'm reading from his article that he published yesterday. But a certain brand gave the Vikings a B for the trade, but the Browns got an A+ according to your article. And I don't disagree with that. Like you said, maybe it was a low ball offer, but the point that we have to make is there's still a Dalvin Cook situation. There's still a Danielle Hunter situation, and we've got to sign the draft picks. And
it
not
takes
having
one of those problems off their plate for now.
Right. Still a lot of time left for the season, and OTAs, mini camp, training camp, all that. But it's nice to have that out of the way.
Have you been seeing the reports that Minnesota's trying to do right by Dalvin Cook, is what it says?
I have not.
Yeah, that's mostly today's stuff. Apparently, they want him to go somewhere where he can be able to be productive if they do trade him or release him. But they also are still willing to pay him if that is what's best for both him and the team. It's a lot of generalization talk that means nothing in the long run, but
my brain got excited and had for him to stay. I thought we said do right by him was, oh, we're trying to keep him. Now I realize you're saying, okay, well, we're not just going to dump you off to the Bears. Like, we'll give you to a team that maybe is competitive if the price is right for all of us, that's the key for every party involved. Because in this situation, we're not just talking about the Vikings and another team. We're also talking about Dalvin Cook. So it's kind of a three-way situation now that he's kind of disconnected from the team. But
yeah, you want him to go somewhere where he can be productive and be a starter and have a chance to do something. I mean, if you ship him off to like Houston, he's going to be in a little bit of trouble. But so many teams these days have younger running backs, especially in the last couple of drafts, that they need to kick tires on before they're willing to pay a running back what they're paying Dalvin Cook.
Right. And we've said it before on the show, that's kind of the formula to succeed is and it's really any team, the key positions and the skill players, the quarterbacks, the edge rushers, wide receivers, all that. And if you have the young base salary there, you can go out and sign the big star agents, or you can extend players who are on the rise. And especially for the running back position, we're not going to say that it's going away. That position is never going to go away, but it just doesn't have the same impact based on the rules and the way the game's played now. And I know that that's not what a person like Dalvin Cook wants to hear, but he's got to be aware of it. At some point, that makes sense. And
yeah, he missed the time when running backs were the focus of the teams, and teams weren't afraid to take a running back like between number 1 and number 5 overall. These
Right.
days, it's not that same way.
Which was crazy, like, not talking about Dalvin Cook, but running backs in general. It's really crazy that Detroit said they were thinking about taking Gibbs at 6 overall when uh, Bijan Robinson was there. I mean, that gets because I hear nothing short of like comparisons to Saquon Barkley for Bijan Robinson. But thinking about taking one that high, dude, you got to take an Adrian Peterson that high, and I don't think the kid from Alabama is an Adrian Peterson. That was weird. Not in today's age. That's how I'm tied into the story, but that's interesting. That's very classy by the Vikings. Not a lot of teams would care to do that. I think they realize that this player was very impactful for them for a number of years, and he'll be up in the rankings as far as like rushing yards and touchdowns and stuff
Oh yeah.
in the history of the team. But if you don't want to take a pay cut, we're kind of strapped there, and maybe it just. I've said it all along. I think it's just a sign of the direction the team is going. They're going to try to air it out more. They're not going to lean heavy on that. They would gladly go with the stable, and I'm okay with that. I think a lot of fans
We have
are
seen
too.
the team is willing to make compromises if they can be willing to work with a salary cap number, because that's the only reason Jordan Hicks is here. It's really the only reason Harrison Smith is still in Minnesota, is that they
Right.
were willing to make some compromises.
I added someone on Twitter, and I'm not going to mention their handle because I don't want to say negatively or the other about it. But it was, talking about why would you let Za'Darius go? And it's like we have to pay our draft pick, so well then restructure O'Neal. And I'm like, no, that's not the end all be all to everything. Like you can only restructure and ask these dudes to do this and that year by year. There's got to be some sort of consistency there. I mean, that's kind of the reason why the Danielle Hunter thing is still like a major issue for me is that guy, and even though he accepted the contract that guy knows he's underpaid based on his production. He has injury history. And I wouldn't blame him. He'd be like, hey, look, I got like maybe one more big, contract re-sign before I hit my second one. And then I'll start having to be like a mercenary. So I'm going to need money. And rightfully so. We always say we want these guys to get paid, but I just thought that was hilarious. It was like, well, then do this. Or you could just cut the guy who doesn't want to be here or just trade him. It's not, and I feel comfortable with this Smith trade because we have a very good core and levels to our pass rush for this team. And there are some promising pass rushers on this team. I love Jones. DJ Wanham has been great when he's filled in. Give him a shot. Who cares?
And isn't one of the Vikings undrafted free agents this year like really highly touted?
Correct. The kid from Army. And then also, I know he's not particularly a defensive end, but he still can rush. The linebacker. I mean, that linebacker went undrafted. He had the highest grade in all of college football last year. I mean, we got him. And I don't know how that happens, but maybe he's undersized. But they've got options there. And it'll be the real interesting thing. This is such a generic statement, but I don't care. It's true. It's just how Brian Flores puts his stamp on the team.
Yeah,
my want for this team.
Bring out the best in players.
Right, exactly. And my want for the team is not an expectation of outer space, like we're going from worst to first. There's no chance that happens. I will be happy for this team as a whole, an overall defense being ranked in the teens anywhere. I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, middle of the road defense would be a huge improvement.
Yeah, and I think at that point last year, that may or may not have been the reason that the Vikings weren't the 1 seed. Had they had a defense that was 15th in the league, they may have been the 1. But we don't really know. I
31st
think
is a little rough.
It's tough, and I mean, when it's right there with the Lions, terror too defensively. So, yeah, it's tough to watch. But yeah, Brian Flores, I think he'll bring the best out of these guys. I'm ready to watch the video. I saw it today. I think on an email. I keep getting promotional emails from the Vikings. Good job, marketing department. Some video rookies having and kind of running around doing their thing, just to see what they look like in the uniform and see. Oh, hey, there's Jordan Addison. Oh, wait.
You know who I am tired of getting emails from is Ticketmaster. Apparently, they think I really am going to buy Vikings tickets right now.
Well, that's a good set because the schedule came out, and I said this, and I know you feel this because I think we're both try to save a buck if we can. I mentioned tickets to my little brother, and I'm going to go to a Vikings game this year, sentimentally to watch my dad's team play the Vikings. He's a huge Kansas City Chiefs fan, and it'll just be fun to see Patrick Mahomes in person too. But I said the price individually of a ticket, and I thought it was crazy. And my brother said, "I'm not sure what planet you live on, but those are great prices." And I said, "Well, I think we differentiate on the word great." I think we're a little skewed there, but it's crazy how much I want to save money. I don't know how many other people think this way, but my brain is still stuck in like 2004. Like,
Oh yeah.
those ticket prices, and it's not how it is. And it's partly because like I just went to a UFC event yesterday, and I paid $60 for a ticket. A little different than an NFL game, and being in a basketball arena, but I don't know. I also think that if you win a lot, the tickets will probably be higher. So coming off a season and it being a pretty new stadium, I guess I get it. Might not agree with it, but either way, I'm going to put a schedule here for everyone to look at, and then I won't leave it up
But that home
too
opener
long.
against Tampa Bay is very interesting, as far as one I would love to go to, because the weather would not only be nice for the drive, but those home openers are always fun. They seem to do something extra every year.
Right. And it's been on and off again. And some years start in U.S. Bank, some years we start on the road. But this is fun to start in U.S. Bank. I guess an opponent on paper the Vikings should beat.
A beatable opponent, of course.
Right. And I'll put it up now. I'll let you guys look here. So we're going to start here. If you can see the screen moving, this is where the schedule is. But Sunday, week 1 at noon versus Tampa Bay in Minnesota. That's pretty cool. I think Tampa Bay has Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask.
Right-click on that schedule and open it in its own window.
Let's try it. See, this is what I was afraid of.
Oh, wait, you're on Apple, ain't you?
I sure am.
You guys and your wacky stuff.
Max. Yeah, Kyle Trask, I don't know how I feel about him. Baker Mayfield kind of is what he is. They've lost some pieces on that defense, so I'm not sure how to feel about the Bucs. Still a professional NFL team. Anyone can win. We've seen that time and time again with the Vikings, but I don't know. I'm optimistic that the Vikings will do good against this team. I just don't see, if you don't have the best quarterback, I'm not really sure how that works. But
the division
crazier things have happened.
Super interesting this year because the Packers should take a little bit of a step back with their situation at quarterback, and the Bears drafted fairly well. They were able to improve their offensive line a little bit to where now they might actually be able to get a little bit of protection for Justin Fields, so we can see if he actually can throw the ball well and consistently. Because right now, I'm not sure. And Detroit needs to prove they can make up all those touchdowns they got when Williams walked in free agency. So, I mean, it's going to be tough in an interesting division to watch.
I very much agree with you. The Bears and the Lions have improved. I'm sure the Packers have improved in other areas on their roster. I just don't know how good Jordan Love is. I will say, to be the caution-filled pessimistic, if he had 3 years to sit behind Aaron Rodgers and he has half of a brain, he's going to be way better than he was when he came in. But also, you have to play the game. So we'll see.
I don't know how much of a mentor Aaron Rodgers would be if it was something that he had to do in his free time and was not required as part of his job.
Oh, I don't think that he was sitting down helping him study with film, but I'm sure in passing as a friend, Jordan was questioning him to death, and he'll give him the info. But it's one of those, like, if you ask me, I'll tell you, but I'm not coming here to put on a seminar. That's how I feel about Aaron Rodgers. I think it's kind of shown. But if you could pick his brain and ask the right questions, I mean, he could have learned a ton from him, which is cool. Because the way Aaron Rodgers plays, he played the game very differently, and I don't know, man. It was like Diet Peyton Manning for me. He's not that great at reading the defense like Manning's kind of in a level of his own. But Rodgers knew where he was going most of the time. And if you can get that down, I think that's one of the hardest parts I've seen watching NFL quarterbacks. Because there's some guys I can watch, and they're just winging it out there. So, I don't know. I'm going to take this down. We're going to bring this back up in just a little bit. But putting the schedule out there, So we have week 1 at Tampa Bay. I like that game. I consider the Vikings a favorite to win that game because they're at home because the opponent isn't a juggernaut. But I hate, again, 2 years in a row going to Philly for week 2. God, do I hate that game so much. 4 days after the opener, you got to go to Philly. I hate that team. I hate the fan base so much. I wouldn't count the Vikings winning this game. They only got better in free agency. They lost a piece, but they gained 2 or 3 more. So I don't know how anyone with a rational mode of thinking, and I'm open to listen to why, but I don't know how anyone, making predictions for the NFL wouldn't put Philadelphia right back in the Super Bowl. They're a scary team. They built well, and we'll see over time if that contract they gave Jalen Hurts was worth it and if it hurts them. But right now, Philly. I don't want to go to Philly. I don't like that very much.
Yeah, that's not a good situation at all. I don't like that one bit, but I do like that Minnesota does have some games in the postseason or in the primetime window. It
Correct.
shows that the NFL does like what the Minnesota Vikings are doing, and of course, with some of the most exciting players in the league on offense here, Justin Jefferson alone will have people tuning in.
Jefferson there, Jordan Addison's a fun name to tag alongside. T.J. Hawkinson, Kirk still here for another year. I mean, it's a fun team. They scored some points last year, so I think that's a positive sign. There is that old unfortunate stink that follows Kirk Cousins about the primetime situation, but
I love giving him more opportunities to change that.
Absolutely, exactly what I was going to say. I'm open to watching him change that narrative. He won some primetime games last year. He's definitely won a postseason game. I mean,
I feel like he's already kind of crushed the whole Kirk Cousins stats are only because he pads them in the fourth quarter when it doesn't matter. I think that one should go out the window at least by now.
I hate that argument anyways. That's like, oh, he's pat setting. So he shouldn't try to score points? That's kind of his job, right? Like that. I never understood that argument from people, but I get it. Well, why didn't you do it in the first quarter? Well, you have 4. Sometimes it doesn't work. I don't know.
Right.
There's some variables. But the fun little stretch here for me, and this is just for me personally, is 3 teams in a row. And God bless my mother if she was still here. This rarely would ever happen. We play my brother's favorite team in week 3 in the LA Chargers. That's in Minnesota. Right here, 30 minutes from where I'm sitting, week 4, October 1st, in Carolina, Adam Thielen revenge game. And then the game that I'm hoping to go to Sunday, October 8th versus the Chiefs. My brother's, my mom's, and my dad's favorite teams playing my team 3 in a row session. That is crazy.
You might miss the snow that early, maybe.
I hope so. I didn't want to go for that. I really wanted to go to that home opener, but I think I'm going to make it for the Kansas City game. I've kind of promised my dad for that one. But looking at the window, let's go review it again. Tampa Bay, week 1 at Philly, home against the Chargers, in Carolina, home against the Kansas City Chiefs. If things were to go to plan there, the Vikings going into week 6 could have a 3-2 record. I don't see them beating the Eagles. I don't see them beating the Chiefs. I think they're competitive with all 3 of the other teams. So that's hopeful, I guess. It's kind of tit for tat for the schedule for the most part. I see a win-loss here, win-loss there, blah, blah, blah. But there are a couple in a row that look pretty promising, especially in the middle window. There's 4 or 5 games in a row I think they can definitely win. Starting in week 6, they have a away game in Chicago, which is a great change of pace for the schedule because we've been ending the season every year for feels like a decade, playing either in Chicago or in Minnesota against the Bears. So that's nice to not have them at the very end.
Yeah, those late season games on the road against Green Bay and Detroit and Chicago were kind of brutal.
You could see the weather had taken in a turn not for the Vikings in that case, since they do play indoors. And it was rough. Those Green games are tough to watch, and it's also like people don't really attest to it, but Chicago that weather is nuts there. We saw it here. They were running around in what looked like a swimming pool, like week 1, I think, against 49ers, and then I've seen it be super windy there, obviously, and then snow. That place is crazy. But in October, I'm hoping it won't be too bad. But that week 6, they're in Chicago. Week 7, Monday, So that's a primetime game against the 49ers, a very stacked team. That'll be a fun one. Hopefully they'll have a home field advantage there. It'll be a close one. And then 2 weeks in a row, 8 and 9, they're on the road. There are, 12 o'clock on Sunday, October 29th at Green Bay, and 12 o'clock the next week in Atlanta on November the 5th, which is really cool. Those are both winnable games. I'm not really sure what to expect, like we've said, with Jordan Love, but I hope that they can beat him. We've seen in recent years the Vikings will at least split with Green Bay, if not win overall in the year. So that's fun. I'm interested to see.
It's not a Vikings taking on a backup quarterback, because that never seems to work out well.
I mean, yeah, these are true. These are their starters, but these are backup levels, in my opinion, in quarterbacks. I don't know what the hell Atlanta was thinking, sticking with but I guess you got to try and see.
Which one? Are the ones of people guessing the teams, or the one with where they're walking through the pubs? Because they actually released multiple release videos.
I have not seen any of these, but that'll be what I do immediately after the podcast. That's really fun. But yeah, week 7, 8, 9. Home, week 7 on a Monday night versus the 49ers in the 2 road games. Week 8 at Green Bay, week 9 at Atlanta. Week 10 is November 12th at noon versus the Saints, the Derek Carr-led Saints. So that'll be a new look.
Yeah, that's weird.
Little mini rivalry there with the Vikings and the Saints for the last 10 to 12 years. Love that. Sunday, it's a night game. Nice. November 19th, away against the Broncos. Will Russ cook? How is Sean Payton going to change the Broncos? That's the question. I think they're actually going to be much improved, because you can't really be worse than the dog shit that they were last year. They were pretty bad. Remember that stat was going around for like half the season, at least the first half. There were more bathrooms in Russell Wilson's house than he had touchdowns.
I felt bad because that guy on TikTok never got credit for a lot of that.
That's hilarious. It's so bad for Russell Wilson, because we've seen him be like very productive over his career. But that was it. That season was awful last year. And I think that speaks to the levels of coaching and how much maybe an Aaron Rodgers will make a coach look better than he might actually be. I don't know.
I can't remember what the Falcons one was, but it was hilarious. Atlanta actually changed it to whatever they said. What was it? The Red Panthers or something like that? The Red Lions? I don't remember what it is. Red somethings. But yeah, those schedule release videos are great. You see the Vikings did ones with where the kids of some of their players were talking about the teams.
Oh my God, no. I need to see that. That I want to watch. I've watched
the Red Mustangs, that's right.
Talk about the Broncos.
And the Colts on Twitter changed their names to not the Cowboys, because someone guessed, like multiple people guessed Cowboys for the Colts logo.
That's incredible. God, that's funny. Back to the schedule. God, that's great. Week 11, like I said, Sunday night game in Denver, followed by a Monday night game at home against the Bears. So 2 primetime games in a row, one on the road and then one in Minnesota. Pretty cool.
And these primetime games will not be easy contests. They got some good competition in almost all of them.
Okay, there's one left. I'll highlight them at the end. The most important part here, because it's almost perfect, is the week 13 bye. Absolutely need good break in between. Would have been better about week 11 or 12, but it's not too far along to where they can have a break. And this is cool. It's right around the start of the holiday, right after Thanksgiving, in between going into December. So that's kind of a cool break for the players.
Yeah, at that point in the season, the players will definitely need a nice little break, and the players that are banged up a little bit could use a little bit of time to heal up. That's a good time. I like that.
After that, there's 2 away games. My apologies. 3:05, so the afternoon window in Las Vegas to meet the Raiders. Sergio says he's going to that game. I'm pumped for
go see
man.
Jimmy
That'll
James.
be fun. Maybe you'll see Tom Brady there, dude. You guys didn't know that. He's in talks to be a partial owner of the Raiders, of all teams. I figured if he would want to go make money, he'd be part owner of the Cowboys, or logic would say go back to New England. They'd have you with open arms. But sure, the Raiders.
You make a lot of money in Vegas.
Yeah, true. It seems more and more like Tom Brady's not going to do the Fox thing. He doesn't really
Which
need
is a
to
shame because I liked that they were going to kick Greg Olson out a little bit.
I know you don't like him. I like him, and that hurts my heart, but it's hilarious to hear when you say that every time. Do we know if the to-be-determined games can be flexed to prime time or just the afternoon?
I
Not
don't
sure
need a
how that
parrot in the
works.
announcing booth.
That's hilarious. Adam, do you know the answer to this? I'm not sure. I think they have the opportunity to.
I
But
have actually not looked too much.
my guess would be that they probably wouldn't. At least not for the Cincy game I'm going to mention here in week 15, because maybe they'll win for the division the last weekend at Detroit. And maybe that would be something that more folks would be interested in. I'm not sure. That's a good question, though. I'll ask around to some of my buddies in Old England on Twitter. I'm sure they'll know the answer. But as I alluded to, asking as a fan whose team feels Kirk Cousins. There's the narrative. Push that narrative, Tommy. Week 15, the time is to be determined on this particular graphic I have. If there's something different, I will correct that, put it in a minute. I'll double check again. But week 15 is December 17th. That's in Cincinnati. That is a game that I dread watching. Not only is the weather going to be awful, that team, I just don't like that at all. I don't like that matchup whatsoever. So
if the Vikings had a little bit more experience at corner, I might not be as nervous, but man, their receiving weapons are just crazy.
You read my mind. Joe Burrow,
but also I don't know what's going on with Joe Mixon either, so I'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, that's a situation. 15 versus Boston Bobcats. That's incredible.
Oh yeah,
I live for these. God, that's awesome. December 24th, Christmas Eve at noon, at home against the Lions. So this is the interesting part of the schedule. Week 16, Week 17, and Week 18. All division games. So 3 of the 6 division games, all back-to-back. Week 16, Christmas Eve, noon against Detroit in Minnesota. Week 17, New Year's Eve. And that is the last primetime game for us at 7:20 p.m. versus Green Bay. That's also Minnesota. And then the Vikings round out the season in Detroit. The time is to be determined. That is January 7th against the Lions. I think that was a smart move. I think the Vikings and the Lions will fight for the division, and that will be a pivotal game. Based on
is anyone else excited that the Vikings are not playing on Thanksgiving this year? I don't like Thanksgiving games.
You know, I don't want to say I don't want to see them on Thanksgiving. I hate any of the flex games that are even a Monday night game. I hate it because that means that the day when most of the games are being played, I'm just sitting there like the Pablo Escobar meme, just sitting on the bench looking at the ground. Really wish that I had that. Or I don't know, it's Thursday and you blow out early and it's like, well, I have nothing to do for 10 days now. I hate that. So, yes, I think I mostly agree with you. It's
Although
fun
living out of market, I know that it's going to be on TV, so that's a plus.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Same. I'm going from Charlotte to Richmond. There's not any Vikings being flexed out here. But
yeah, what are you going to get? Washington games now?
Oh, God, yeah. That'll be the predominant one. Or Ravens games. It's either, the Commanders and the Ravens. But, yeah, Thursday games. I have nothing to do for 10 days. It sucks. It's fun when they win on Thanksgiving, but that's anytime. It's fun when they win regardless, but it's fun when they win on those days. But last year, they had the night game on Thanksgiving. I had to wait all day Thanksgiving. I'm just like, just play it at noon. If they could play noon games all the time, I'd be so happy. I don't know if anybody else besides myself and Tommy feel that way, but I would love Vikings just have a 12 o'clock slot all the time. Thanksgiving is the original teams, not the random Thursday night football match. Yeah, I could see that. I don't ever want to see the Lions on Thanksgiving, though. I don't want that. They're not entertaining.
I will be watching Detroit and Green Bay on Thanksgiving. That's happening.
Ooh, they do have it. Nice. I mean, I'm not going to knock it, but I don't know. For my entire life, the Lions have been trash, and whoever they're playing out, I just automatically assume they were going to beat. It is weird to think that they might actually have a chance to win the division for the first time since 91 or something like that, 93.
They should be very competitive.
Yeah. Almost 30 years of purgatory. So we'll see. But I'll give you guys a rundown here. I'm not going to bring up the graphic, but I'll go through it at least for the half that I have here. Adam, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. I totally understand. But when I looked at the schedule the other day, I did go on a quick, yes, I think they can win this game. No, I don't think so. So I'll go through them in spurts here. The first 4 weeks. Home against the Bucks, I have the Vikings winning that game. And this is strictly based on now. Injuries could happen to either or team. I don't know. Just looking at it as face value on paper. Yeah, I think they can beat the Buccaneers. I like them at home to open the season. I hate the Philadelphia game with every fiber of my being. I don't care if that was on Sunday, Monday, whatever. Going to Philly sucks. They're going to get their shit kicked in. And I would bet my paycheck on it. Week 3 against the Chargers, competitive game, but I do think they get the Chargers. It was fun to see them in 2021 with my brother and see it at SoFi. That's an amazing stadium. Pulled out the win there. That's Adam's favorite quarterback. If you guys didn't know, that's Adam's favorite quarterback in the league, Justin Herbert. Make sure you let him know. I
don't mind him. I just think he's got a lot of stuff to prove so far. He's getting a lot of praise when he hasn't really earned it yet.
You know what? That's a very fair statement. That's a very fair statement. Well, look what the cat dragged in.
Hey, I don't see a loss in this season's schedule. Do you?
There he is. I was just going through. We'll start it again. I was just going through what I thought was the win-loss on this schedule here. So we broke down the schedule. We'll run through it for you. I won't do it in depth. Sunday, week 1 at home against the Bucks. Week 2 in Philadelphia. Week 3 at home versus the Chargers. Week 4 in Carolina. Week 5 at home versus the Chiefs. Week 6 in Chicago. Week 7, a Monday night game. Fun stuff. Against
Kirk,
the 49ers. Primetime Kirk at home against the 49ers. 2 road games, 8 and 9 at Green Bay at Atlanta. Week 10 at home versus New Orleans. Week 11 at Denver. Week 12 at home versus the Bears. Lucky 13 bye week. 2 road games starting out December at Las Vegas, week 14, at Cincinnati in week 15, and then 3 division games to end the season, which I'm excited for. 2 home games against the Lions and the Packers, and then ending the season in Detroit against the Lions. And that is a to-be-determined time slot because it may get flexed. I don't know. Also could be flexed the week 15 Cincinnati game against the Bengals in Cincinnati. I don't want that matched up a lot.
I'm going to take a quick jump away from schedule talk for just a moment because I got to bring something up that just blew my mind. Yeah. Did you guys see those reports that Washington contacted several other teams, including contacting Andrew Luck to see if they could get him to come out of retirement to play quarterback for them? But they publicly, I guess it leaked through that they contacted the Kansas City Chiefs to see what they wanted for Patrick Mahomes.
I mean, hey, you got to make the phone call. Right?
You know what? We can make fun of it because we already know the Chiefs weren't going to do that, but I don't hate them calling and asking. I don't.
I get it.
Yeah.
But
wow. Hey, I know you're not going to, but just for shit, what would you take for Mahomes? Yeah, we're not. Thank you, though. Like, I made the attempt, you know.
What if they were joking? What if they were jokingly like, yeah, give us like 4 first-round picks and I don't know, your entire draft class.
If you're Washington, do you consider 4 first-rounders for Patrick Mahomes?
Would you? That's just what I was gonna say. Would you? Maybe I'd do it.
I absolutely would. Absolutely would. But what you should say is, we'll take your next 6 years first-round picks and a player of our choice. That's where we start.
Now you got to do the Ricky Williams. Dude, if you're going for it, you got to do the Ricky Williams thing, and you got to be like, give me your entire draft class. I want all of your picks for the next 2 or 3 years, and then you can have Patrick Mahomes.
That's not terrible. That would be career suicide for that GM and coach, most likely. Yeah. But I mean, you can like, hey, we got Pat Mahomes. Who wants to come here?
I know this is going to be a little bit of a jerk thing to say, but I don't think Washington is close enough to where they should be at that point where they want to plug in or be able to invest really heavily in a quarterback. Yeah. I think they need more talent before they can start doing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a bad thing to say at all. I totally agree.
I did hear about the story because Jim Irsay went on Twitter and he's like, hey, by the way, we still own the rights to Andrew Luck. Technically, getting a hold of him is tampering. You probably shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, I watched that too. Ian Rappaport filled in for McAfee. Shout out to Pat McAfee. We're all big fans of his. Brand new dad, so that's kind of cool. While he was helping his wife the week that his baby girl was born, Rappaport was on there. I know was some talks about it there, and I also heard Mike Florio talking to someone about that, and it's just, yeah, it's definitely terrible. Can't do that. Even though I think the rule is stupid, it's the rule. Like it's wild.
Andrew Luck is also 100% retired. Like it's been it's been a while now since he played football, and he's done that thing that you always see former retired players do, where he has dropped all of his playing weight. Like it's gone. It's not coming back, and it's too bad he couldn't have stayed healthy. I mean, because when he was good,
such an arm talent. He was so good.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting, people shit all over Sam Bradford for not staying healthy and living up to his potential, and Andrew Luck kind of gets a pass a little bit when they followed the same, they both kind of
I think it's because fans got to see Sam Bradford, like, his decline over injuries, and they didn't really see a lot of that with Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck was more of a surprise retirement.
So because Andrew Luck was smart enough to not drag his career out and get injured and go down that path, like
I think so.
I think more of it too is he was a winner. Like he had an exciting playoff win, and Sam Bradford I don't think ever sniffed the playoffs. Granted, he was playing for Jeff Fisher to start his career. Let's not forget about that in the St. Louis Rams, which were terrible. But yeah, I think winning too, because like being first overall picks are one thing. Right. But if you go in and it's like, man, because Andrew Luck, I think is what Adam was saying with like Justin Herbert. Like he said before he got on, he said he's a little overhyped. Like I want to see him do more. With Andrew Luck, I could clearly see like, oh, that dude's not the issue. We need a line to protect him to keep him from getting killed. And he made T.Y. Hilton look good, and I forget the other receiver's name, but as long as the defense could just be okay, like we're still in it because we have Andrew Luck. But yeah, nobody was ever like, oh my God, we're playing Sam Bradford this week. Like,
there was a couple seasons there early in his career where like you make.
I loved his arm talent. I loved his arm talent. I just didn't see that killer instinct in him. But yeah, I hate joke. I made the joke plenty of times. I hate that I made it, but yeah, they said he had glass knees, and it's like,
you said,
he had a thin frame.
Jeff Fisher. I forever hold a grudge against Jeff Fisher because I firmly believe he ruined Vince Young. Firmly believe he ruined Vince Young.
Not Mr. 7 and 9. How dare you? How dare you?
Ridiculous.
We were also talking to, I'm glad you joined in, Kyle. Zadarius Smith gets into the Browns. The Vikings receive a 5th-round pick in 2024 and a 5th in 2025. Pretty low compensation value, but they did get something for him, and this does help the Vikings now be able to sign every one of their draft picks. All but 2 of their draft picks this year were signed. It was first-round pick Jordan Addison and the third-round corner that we took from the same school. They were still left, but now the Vikings have a little breathing room with the cap, and they can get their draftees signed. And Zadarius didn't want to play here, so
correct.
Thanks for the year.
Zadarius wasn't going to be here anyway, so anything that you got in return for him to no longer be a Minnesota Viking seems kind of like a bonus to me. You can really dive into the ins and outs and be an armchair GM as to whether or not the timing, if you would have released him or traded him earlier, you could have potentially saved on the contract side of things a little bit. So maybe that's a learning experience for Kwesi, where it's like, hey, if you don't want him,
it does kind of seem like Minnesota's getting some extra picks for next year's draft to do something with.
I like that. We're loading up. They're loading up. They're freeing up some salary cap space, for next season.
Drake May, Minnesota Viking.
There you go. So you're getting the cap space, you're getting the picks necessary to where if you're going up for that quarterback, having an extra fifth, that's a little, those are extra things that you can throw in to help sweeten the deal up if you're moving up and going that route on moving on from Kirk Cousins. So I understand what they're doing. Za'Darius for Cleveland is an interesting fit. It's an interesting fit for them the same way it was for Minnesota, because if he's healthy and you're pairing him with Myles Garrett, that's a good combination for the Cleveland Browns. It's if he can stay healthy.
It'll be a helmet swinging good time.
Man, there it was. There it was. He damn near killed the man. That was fucking crazy. Whew. That's all, brother. Anyways, yeah, totally agree. We hit those points too. I love that we're all on the same page. Vikings can have enough to sign their draft picks now. He made that weird Twitter statement where he was like, "Oh, thank you for your time." I was like, "Bro, you're under contract." Yeah, But Adam also mentioned that Minnesota has been in the rumor. This is Twitter stuff, I guess, but there are talks out there that the Vikings are trying to do right by Dalvin Cook and maybe send him to a team where he could be utilized correctly. I think that's cool and classy of them. I also say do what's best for the team. But, I mean, I'm not surprised. We have a classy organization. They're not just going to send him to the Bears or somewhere terrible, I don't think.
I mean,
if the price is right, they will. But
is there? Yeah, give us your draft class. We'll give you Dalvin Cook. Is there much of a trade market for Dalvin? I mean, I don't know what team.
At this point, I don't know if there are teams out there that are running back needy enough to really want to invest heavily in a running back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd have to find a team that wants to trade for Dalvin Cook, that Dalvin Cook also wants to play for, to restructure his contract to fit their needs, because you're not paying a lot of money. You're not, another team is not going to pay him that much money to come in and be a rotational number 2 sort of player for them, and I don't think he has running back 1 value at this stage in his career. So that's a lot of circumstances that I don't know if it's going to happen. I still think he just ends up getting released by the team and ultimately pick your destination at that point.
Yeah, he could definitely be a post-June 1st cut.
That's what I've heard a lot of.
Which is wild, because I don't realize that it's already the middle of May. That's 2 weeks away. It's 2 weeks and change. That's so weird. I'm letting you guys talk. I'm looking it up. So Dalvin has made $32.2 million in his career. Now, that's not quarterback money, but that certainly is a lot more than the rest of the world usually makes.
More than I have.
Now, that's not endorsements and other things like that, right?
No, that's strictly on just his Vikings earnings. Now, he's probably made more than that, like you said, in endorsement deals or whatever else, but strictly by earning money on the football field by playing the game. $32.2 million so far. And, yeah, wow. The biggest one, half of that came from 2020. First year, $3 million. 2018, $750,000. 2019, $1 million. 2020, $16 million. All for that team to not make the playoffs. That's crazy.
I'm gonna say some more non-Viking stuff at the moment. Who was that really athletic quarterback that came out this year that was taken? I believe Indy Richardson.
Anthony Richardson. Yeah.
Did you hear the story of him at the rookie symposium?
I did. That's excellent. Go ahead and tell the story, Adam.
Did you hear it, Smith?
Nope.
You're gonna love.
Okay,
this one.
So rookie symposium, they brought in all these young guys to tell them how to invest and, to prepare for their NFL careers and things like that. After the symposium was over, everybody left, and Richardson stuck around and started cleaning up because he felt like they left the room in a state that was not fitting to make people clean. So he stuck around and cleaned up with everybody.
Yeah, and they told him.
They told him to go home, and he said no.
Yeah, they're like, you don't have to do this. You can leave. You can go home. And he said, no, we're not going to leave it in that state. I'm not going to leave it in that state. That's not fair to the people who have to clean up after us. And so, yeah, he stuck around.
Awesome, man.
Dude, I really wanted him in Minnesota. And after you hear that, it's like, yeah, that's the kind of guy.
Character stories.
Yep.
He definitely needs more time to study because he only played a very small number of games, but the arm talent and the athleticism, I mean, it's basically the athleticism of Cam Newton you're getting. So if he can figure it out mentally, like, that's scary.
But I know. Him sitting a year underneath Kirk would have been just perfect scenario for him. I love that story, Adam. I'm glad you brought that up.
That's a fun one.
That's cool,
I know that the Vikings will be looking for a quarterback, and I know they're going to want someone that's a high character too, because Kirk is a very high character quarterback as well.
I got just
and that kind of the organizations we look to the future here. It's kind of tough to look and see how the Vikings are going to be able to bring in another quarterback that isn't. I don't want to say isn't controversial, but that doesn't cause a lot of issues or bring in problems with him.
Kirk
Drake May,
himself.
6'4", 220 pounds from Huntersville, North Carolina. I believe that there.
Was he a Boy Scout?
I'm not sure if he was a Boy Scout, but what's great about him is he won't go first next year because Williams is probably going to go first overall. So you have a kind of a good chance to go get him. Figure that out, Minnesota. Forget this entire season you're planning for. Start looking to the draft.
Yeah, we want Billy Mays, whoever you said.
Nice.
Billy Mays. Hi, Billy
Love
Mays
that.
here. Kirk is he is a drama-free player and quarterback, and it's not Kirk's fault that some members of the Vikings sports media have decided to kind of turn him being on the team into a bit of a sideshow. Like,
I get that he's boring and vanilla, and that's the thing that kind of follows him around. But he's just a family man, a religious family man. That's what they're doing his stuff, and I got no issue with that.
Well, also too, like let me just say this: for all when he came here, I was against it, and I've slowly over the years gotten back to being like, okay, you got to support the quarterback. I don't think he's a bad human. You can believe what you want to believe, like religiously, politically, all that fun stuff. He's a good human. He's a good father. I think he's a nice dude, a nice human in general. But you know what? On top of that, being drama-free and what you said, Adam, I love, even though people will say, I can't believe he robbed the Vikings and he made all that money. Good for him.
The biggest drama-filled thing he did was the whole I'm not getting vaccinated thing. And that was something that was going around with everybody at that time. There were a lot of people that just did not
If I die, I die. He's trying to be Spartacus over here. That's crazy.
Yeah, everyone had a lot of opinions, and
yeah, his grilling decisions are rough as well, there, Tommy.
Yeah, and the Pizza Ranch endorsement.
But it's money, and I'd say to everyone that says that to me, that's a non-Viking.
But would you rather have a lot of okay pizza or a little bit of very good pizza?
There's no bad pizza.
So pizza by Alfredo's or Alfredo's Pizza Cafe? What are we talking here?
I don't know either of those places.
Yeah, me neither.
Oh, it's a reference from The Office. Sorry.
Oh God.
There
goes my Office card.
Been so long since I've seen The Office.
But anyways, I keep forgetting. But the point I was trying to make is, if I tell everyone that says that is, a lot of friends, especially being in the military, everyone's a fan of a different team. I can't believe Kirk got all that money. You guys overpaid, blah, blah, blah. And I say, if that was you, you'd do the same thing. If you had an agent and they was like, hey, they're offering you this, you would be like, not worth that much. That's okay. Of course you would take the money.
It's ridiculous what we as fans will say about athletes. Because, like, imagine, Smith, if I came up to you, or if your work came up to you and said, hey, you're getting awful gray on top, you're getting a little old to be doing your job, so we're going to cut your pay in half. We still kind of want you around, because you're a good leader, and you're a good locker room leader to have around, but we really only think you have about 2 years left here, and so we're just going to chop your pay in half, and you should do it because you like being here. You should be thankful.
This is going to be a very unpopular thing for me to say, but for what NFL players bring in as far as money, they are actually underpaid in some ways.
Yeah.
Because the revenue they are bringing
point.
in is incredible.
I used to argue with a coworker because he gets so pissed off about, oh, this professional athlete made this much money and I can't believe it and they need to pay teachers. And yes, teachers are underpaid. That's also not the conversation that we're having. There's only one Adrian Peterson, and this is the argument I always used to make. You can't learn to be Adrian Peterson. You can learn to do my job. I can teach you how to do my job. Adam, I can teach you how to do my job. Smith, I can teach you how to do my job. None of us are going to run for 2,000 yards in the NFL.
Well, that's the point I wanted to make. So you spun it in a way that I wish that I had said more in the past, and I will if I ever have this in the future. But you said, okay, I come to your job. Kyle, I won't say where you work, what you do. But let's just say for this story, you work at Walmart, and you're the shift manager. And you're coming and you're doing your job, and it's been, you've had a bad year 1 year, a great year, blah, blah, blah. And they say, hey, you're turning 33. That's a little old for us. 2 more years. I need you to take a pay cut. But, yeah, stay here because, you've been here a while. But then this is what your friends would say. Well, that's not fair. I'm not that old. And, well, why do I have to take a pay cut and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, replicable at that job right now. And I don't care what your friends do or what you're doing in this specific story. Yeah. You could be a dentist, you could be a firefighter, whatever. You're replaceable in that job because people can learn your skill. These guys are one of one, and maybe one person in every state. Not every state, because there's 50 states. There's only 32 teams, and some of those 32 guys aren't good. So there's about 25 to 23 guys in the world, and people are like, I can't believe they get paid that much. It's like, well, I know we need to teach people in public education about taxes and stuff, but we also need to teach them economics and how businesses work because they don't understand that still.
Look at the quarterback position. There are 32 teams in the NFL, and there are barely 32 starting caliber quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
Yeah, there aren't 32.
No, there are not 32 starting caliber NFL quarterbacks right now.
That's why I put the number at 23 to 25. That sounds about.
And did you see how brutal some of those quarterback play is in like the XFL and
100%,
the CFL and all those other leagues? It's brutal.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough, man. I want to explain that to people, but if they're too stupid to make the statement outwardly, they're not smart enough to listen. And I'm glad that we all agree
numbers, which I understand.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's crazy because I'm like, oh, teachers or policemen and blah, 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 they need to get paid more. I agree. They probably need to get paid more money. But they don't bring in the revenue.
It's why I'm also not too hard on someone like an Adam Thielen. And we know he's at the end of his career, and he probably does too. But I'm not gonna shit on him too much for still believing that he should be a number 1 or number 2 receiver in the league, because his whole career he's bet on himself.
Yeah.
And so why would you expect him to all of a sudden be like, yeah, I don't have it no more? Because as soon as you say you don't have it no more, you need to retire. Do you want the receiver on your team who's like, I'm okay with being like a number 4 or 5? No.
Did you see that Adam Thielen though said that he believes KJ Osborne can be a number 1 in the NFL?
I did see that. Yeah.
Holy shit, that's high praise.
I mean, Adam Thielen has definitely played with number 1s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And make no mistake, to add that point, he's made those number 1s look really good. He's brought some coverage off of both of those guys. So I like that. That's a good point, Bob. That we say that in our profession for handling dogs. If you think you know everything about dog handling, it's time for you to hang up your leash. Like once you got it all figured out and you think you're perfect, you should probably go because you're never going to be. Same kind of thing there. Like, I love that. And you try to put it in our thing. Like, you should just quit. They're like, what?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. What are you talking about? That's what you're telling that guy to do.
You should just, half your salary. You should just give up to the company that you work for.
Well, what's even funnier about that is this has nothing to do with the Vikings, but
you should give up half your salary because.
But we all have that one guy at work we look at and say, "Boy, that guy is not. He's not earning his money today."
Yeah. It's so funny when you think about it, though. It's like, give up half your salary because we also have a younger, better version of you that we want you to train. That's the NFL, dude. It's so brutal when you think about it.
It's funny.
It is.
But I'm bringing up the point too, like of people talking about athletes. I literally went to a UFC event yesterday, and I said this as audibly as I could without shouting it. People were booing at these guys that were grappling and trying to like do submissions, and they're bored because it's not somebody standing up and boxing. I said MMA fans have to be some of the dumbest fucking people that I've ever met. And like 12 people turned around and said, "You guys boo these people for grappling, and this is high level stuff. They're doing mixed martial arts, but you get mad when they mix the martial arts."
Yeah.
What are you doing? If you want to watch people box, just go watch boxing.
Or if all you want are high spots, we have another sport you can watch. It's called professional wrestling, and there's a lot of high spots in that. If that's all you want to see.
Serious. No, and this is the same. This is the same folks.
That's all they want. People just want the violence.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, they want the violence. They want the big, real. But it's just funny because the same people saying stuff about football players and UFC fighters. These are average Joes, and it's like, I don't know that you've ever been in a fight in your entire life. I don't think you.
Someone's arm explodes during an arm bar, and you bet that crowd will be loud and just rowdy.
Yeah,
for sure. For the scouts yesterday, place went pretty crazy. Shout out to the guy in Charlotte. His nickname is Pooh Bear. He's from here. He knocked a guy out in 14 seconds yesterday, which is unreal.
Dang.
I'll send that to you guys in the chat. It's wild, but I'm going to get back to football because we are at an hour, and I want to wrap that up. I was starting to go down the list here, but I'll shorten it just because, and I'm glad, Kyle, that you joined in with us because it saves me from having to go down these list by list because it's kind of boring that way. I have the Vikings at 11-6, and rather than tell you all the wins, I'll tell you the losses. I hate week 2 in Philadelphia. They are going to get brutally murdered by the Eagles again in one prime time. I hate that so much. The Kansas City Chiefs, I don't think they stand a chance against them. I think somehow maybe they could keep it competitive at home and lose Mark Richt. Sounds about how the Vikings would do that. But they also did go to Kansas City 4 years ago and lose to Matt, what's his name, the backup, and it was awful. I don't like them matching up against the 49ers 2 weeks after that. I don't like – and it's a primetime game. Take that for what you will. There's a nice stretch there from at Green Bay, Atlanta, New Orleans, Denver,
I was going to say week 8 to week 12, and then you go into the bye week. You better make your bread and butter during that section of the schedule if you're the Vikings.
They can beat the Raiders, too, in week 14, so they have a good chance
definitely.
within 6 games.
I also really don't like – Dallas is on there, right?
No Dallas this year.
No Dallas?
No Dallas, thank God. Chasing every dream from the conference. Yeah, that sucks. I hate week 15 at the Bengals. I'll tell you about another one later because I could pencil this. I could swap this other game out, but I hate week 15 at the – I think the Bengals outclass them in just about every area. I don't know. There's something about Joe Burrow and the whole chemistry of that team is wild. They were a play or two away from going back to the Super Bowl. I just don't think the Vikings are there yet. And I also have them losing to the Lions in Minnesota. They split with the Lions the last couple of years. Yes.
Have the Lions ever won in Minnesota with the new stadium?
I don't know, but I wanted to flip-flop from last year to make it different, where they always lose in Detroit. I have a feeling we'll both beat each other on the away turfs.
Interesting.
But the one that I would swap here, because that would leave the Vikings at 5-1 and ultimately win the division. The one I will swap here, I have them taking a loss in primetime against Denver. I don't like Russell Wilson with Sean Payton. I think that could be very good, sneakily good. And the bounce back's going to look really good if I'm right, because last year was so bad with that team. I have right now a loss in November 19th against the Broncos, but I would swap that for a week 12 or a week 6 loss to Chicago because the Bears might have improved a little bit. They certainly have on paper gotten a lot better. Now we'll see if they can get coached and play up to that level. So I would swap a Denver win.
To see if this Vikings defense can make any difference, because I don't see the offense dropping off a whole lot, if any. Not much was lost there. I mean, what was
Not at
lost for
all.
the Vikings on the offensive side this year? Irv Smith?
Yeah, you replace Thielen with Addison, so really, yeah, just Irv Smith, and then you get a better blocking tight end. Maybe Cook's going to be interesting because
did you watch
the
some
run
of those
game ends
videos
up
of
being,
Addison from rookie camp?
No, not yet. I didn't know we had him out.
He made one diving catch that looked
And
really good.
It showed some of his cuts too, and man, are they crisp!
Oh, uh-huh.
Nice. I'll be sure to watch that very soon.
He's going to be an exciting addition to this team.
It's gonna be fun to watch those young, fast receivers working out there on the sides.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with Thielen, but speed was not his thing at his age. There, he's a very reliable pass catcher, and he could win one-on-ones. But Addison's just going to offer so many really cool, interesting things.
Somebody's always going to be open in this offense. Somebody is.
If you're doing it right, it should be.
It's just a gamble. It's a fun, chess match of football because you can send the house, but are you really going to leave Addison, Hawkinson, and Jefferson all open? Like, I wouldn't do that. I definitely wouldn't.
Or even Osborne underneath. He can pick up some huge yardage.
Yeah, and no, this is no slight to KJ Osborne. I love that guy, and he's a great player for this team. So, I don't know. The offense is going to be pretty good. I think the X factor is Dalvin Cook. If this run game goes to shit and Dalvin goes somewhere and is productive, this is going to look really bad, but
well, the X factor is Ed Ingram. If he can improve and be a serviceable right guard, that's where the big question mark is.
Yeah, I think I sent it to you guys in the chat, but there was that video I was watching where they were breaking down the offensive line, and they showed Ed Ingram doing Ed Ingram things that you almost don't even notice until you have, because this was two former NFL players.
Oh yeah,
breaking the tape
down, tripping your quarterback.
Yeah, but then I mean, there's other things they were talking about too. That it's like, oh, you don't even realize. We don't even realize some of the assignments these guys have, and he's got a lot to improve upon.
I actually don't mind Ezra Cleveland too much. I think that he has room to improve quite a bit, but he's serviceable at left guard.
Yeah.
You know what? Tell me if I'm wrong, Adam. I think the word that I would describe Ezra Cleveland is solid. He's solid.
He's
all right.
I won't say that he's wonderful, but yeah, he's solid.
Solid is a step further than I'd go.
Okay.
Because I still feel like he makes a lot of mistakes, but he also is. You can only be as good as the people around you. And Garrett Bradbury took a step forward last year, but that step forward still has him a little bit behind everybody else in a lot of ways.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
But Minnesota brought him back on a multi-year deal, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Yeah, I'd like to see the guard play side improve. I think you're right there. Especially for
the interior of the offensive line is the only real concern. I mean, Minnesota's got those offensive tackles pretty much all set now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
big question. We did finally get to see one game where O'Neal looked human.
Yeah,
I forget
unfortunately.
Which game that was.
But for the most part, he's been very, very good.
Which game are you referring to? I forgot.
I wish I could tell you. I remember it happened. Don't know what game.
I don't know if I want to watch it now. Maybe I'll just let that not be in my brain forever. But yeah, getting back to the schedule and wrapping the show up here. That's the breakdown of the schedule this year, guys. I have the Vikings going 11-6. Slight step back from last year. I think the talent is still there offensively, and I think Brian Flores will make a tried and true effort to make the defense better. But there's a lot of question marks with a lot of young players, so hopefully they can live up to part of the hype that they're bringing. But
without talking about specific games, I think this Vikings team is probably going to be closer to a 9-win team. Some of the bounces that went their way last year are not going to go their way this year, and I just don't see them being as successful as they were last season as far as numerical wins. But I know I've said this before. I think they'll be a better all-around team because that defense should be middle of the road with what they have this year. And middle of the road is going to be a big improvement over last year.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I agree with you, Adam.
I would plug now as we go into exiting the show, because I said it earlier, but you should check out the Viking Age because we talked about the Zadarius Smith trade, but if you want to read in-depth details, yesterday our own Adam Carlson published an article over on the Viking Age about the Za'Darius Smith trade. And you should go check out more of his work there on the Viking Age.
Yeah, I also talked about a recent ranking of offensive line, which I talked about in our group chat too, which kind of blew my mind a little bit. It was interesting.
A little surprising.
But yeah, check out my stuff over on the Viking Age, and as well as we got lots of other great writers over there. Adam Patrick's always doing an interesting job stirring the pot a little bit, getting people talking about Vikings football. I always enjoy that. I've been going live on Twitch every once in a while here. You can check me out at MN Viking Zombie on Twitch. I'm also at MN Viking Zombie on nearly every other social media platform. Just hit me up if you feel like chatting about football or wrestling or horror shows and movies. I'm down for all of that.
Yeah, Adam and I sometimes do horror movie reviews, and I think if he's down, he said he enjoyed the new Evil Dead movie. I will absolutely go see that ASAP because
I watched that one yesterday. Then today I watched Renfield.
Do you like it?
It was not what I was expecting.
Okay.
But it was okay, I guess. I've seen some really, really bad reviews. I think it's better than the bad reviews, but I would not heavily recommend it.
I always want to try a Nicolas Cage movie, but those are very 50-50. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're not so great.
I don't think I like him as an actor.
I don't hate that statement.
I mean, I enjoyed Gone in 60 Seconds. That was good.
Yeah, National Treasure. It's fun. Some goofy stuff he does. He's got some unique acting methods. I really like the one that was about his career with Pedro Pascal. That was hilarious.
Oh, come on. No one's mentioned Face Off. Face Off is an absolute classic.
I thought about Face Off. I did.
Yeah.
Goofy
I
concept,
have an irrational hate for John Travolta.
That's also fair. That's not irrational, Adam. That's fair.
So yeah,
for your
that's why I didn't mention Face Off.
For your channel, man, if you want to, if we want to agree.
Oh, I'm always ready to watch and talk about horror. I've been watching lots of them.
Yeah, I really want to see that movie, so I'll definitely get on that this week, and we can do a review about it. You guys can check that out here. It's been on the screen for a couple minutes at MN Viking Zombie on Twitch. All that.
But I will recommend Evil Dead Rise because that thing is nonstop. I mean, once it starts going, it's just wild. And if you like the old, actually the Evil Dead reboot that they came out with recently, it was like that level of blood in this thing, just blood everywhere.
Yeah, the actually pretty underrated 2009 Evil Dead reboot.
I enjoyed it a lot.
I really love that movie. A lot of people were tough on it because it was Evil Dead, which
I think they might have been expecting a little more comedy in it.
I think people wanted 100% more Bruce Campbell.
Well, everybody always wants 100% more Bruce Campbell.
Which is fair, but come on. The end of the 2009 Evil Dead movie where it's raining blood and she has a chainsaw and she's going to town and is also getting sprayed with blood.
I mean,
that's like peak Evil Dead. That shit was good. That had the scene with the razor in her tongue too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle West here at Vaguely Square. You should follow him on things.
Yeah, you can annoy me on Twitter at Vaguely Square if you would like. For as long
Kyle
as
West is our resident expert on Ice Spice.
On what?
Ice Spice?
Exactly.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. He is. This is like that part in Inglourious Bastards where they talk about who speaks Italian the best. He's like, I don't speak Italian. Yeah, I don't speak Italian. He's like, yeah, that's why you speak it the third best. You guys can go buy Kyle's merch here too. He has lots of photos. It's a great photographer. You can get the prints, traditional prints, or you can get stuff on items like a coffee mug or a mouse pad or anything like that. And we also have Purple People Podcast merch there as well. So that'll look if you would like at this link below. There's my social media handles. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at NCDogDude. I don't have a show for a while.
But I have seen you go live recently with some music, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, plan on doing that again. Basically, I'd like to show this off just because it's really cool. I got an carbon fiber guitar, which is really amazing. Sounds wonderful. Had one before, but I decided to go back to it. So I bought a new amp. So I'm going to be trying out effects and really trying to enhance the show and the sound. If I can get the mic settings down correctly, my Facebook was pretty loud and pretty hot. It was hot.
But do know that Kyle Smith is a lot like DJ Request in the movie The Goods. You've never seen The Goods?
I don't think so. No.
You, the big Entourage fan, has never seen it? What?
Which one of the boys? Which one of the boys is in that movie?
Is it Jeremy Piven? Is that his name?
Oh, I love Jeremy Piven. The Goods. Adding it to the list. If my best friend was watching this right now, he would 100% come on and be like, he's the worst movie person ever. Every time I give a review of a movie, he watches it and he's like, I can't believe you like that. That movie was awful. Or I haven't seen a lot of the classics. He loves.
Nobody tells DJ Request what to play.
I just looked up The Goods, and it's so funny because there are movies I haven't seen, but this one came out when I worked at the video store, and so the cover of it is just immediately I know that movie.
My best friend
Craig Robinson as DJ Request is fantastic.
It is indeed Jeremy Piven, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I'm surprised I remembered his name.
Big fan of his. Ari Gold is one of my favorite characters in TV history.
But let's not keep going way too long. I do want to thank everyone who joined in us to talk in chat. We appreciate all of you, as well as making us the #1 show on Podomatic in the football category.
Yeah.
Yeah, take that, Shipyard Cat.
Mr. Smith, if a person were to move to the coastline area, which Carolina is better in your humble opinion? What are you looking for before we go on
East
that?
Carolina.
New Carolina.
Let's see. Charleston, South Carolina. Charleston, South Carolina is wonderful. It is overpopulated from the time I was in there. I'll tell you what to avoid. How does that sound? And then you can go from there. Don't go anywhere near Myrtle Beach. It is trash. It's terrible. It's like the Alabama of the beaches. It's gross. The coast of Carolina is very fun, especially in the middle of the Outer Banks. But if you're going to move, I would probably say Wilmington, North Carolina is a fun town, somewhere near there.
It sounds historical and boring.
It is. You pretty much nailed it. Yeah. Adam Carlson is your new travel agent, Tommy Gunn. There you go. He's got it.
You can learn.
I'm gonna let him sign off, though. I'm not stealing that. I'm not stealing that sign off thunder. Fire away. How good we're on Podomatic again, because I can't believe we're #1. And what is a Thundercat?
Shipyard Cat.
Shipyard Cat. I'm kidding. What is a Shipyard Cat?
I don't know, but that's people that are #1 when we're not.
In football?
Yeah.
Thundercat is an
Well, there was that
cartoon.
1 week where the Ariana Grande football podcast was #1, which I don't even know what that means.
I'm not even mad that we lost to that.
We should do let's do a crossover show with him.
We'll get it figured out.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're pretty much everywhere. Spotify, Podomatic, Google Podcasts, Audible. We're everywhere these days.
We're places it doesn't seem like we should be. We're probably on there.
The full catalog, you can find us over on YouTube. If you want to watch us as well as listen to us, that's where you go. Otherwise, we do go live on Facebook, YouTube, and my Twitch channel at I'm Viking Zombie. You can catch us any of those places when we go live. And in the meantime, stay classy,